So welcome councillors and members of the public to this virtual meeting of the Policy and Resources Committee of Bingham Town Council on Tuesday the 7th of July 2020, which was scheduled for 7:15. Apologies for the delay with quite a busy planning agenda. First item on the agenda this evening, to receive apologies for absence and acceptance.
So I have an apology from absence from Councillor Wallace, with Councillor Lewis subbing on his behalf. Are we happy to accept that apology?
Yes.
Agreed.
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 Thank you.
Okay. Item 2, to receive any declarations of interest.
Yes, can I declare a non-pecuniary interest in item 8 because I'm a director of Bombers Skateboarding CIC.
Okay. And if anybody else thinks of any other conflicts of interest, then they obviously bring it to our attention throughout the agenda as we go through the items. Item 3, to sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of May 2020, Appendix A. I think we've got Rowan coming in.
Yes, we've got Councillor Leach and Councillor Burt with us both now.
Okay.
Good evening.
Evening, Viv.
Evening, Francis.
Evening again, Viv.
Evening, John.
So I propose that we accept I propose we sign the minutes of the meeting on the 19th of May. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that, Councillor Holland. John.
Okay.
Councillor Bird, are you in favour of the minutes being signed?
Sharon, as he was entering, it disappeared again. So I think Councillor Bird is not there at the moment.
Right, okay. Councillor Lewis?
Yes, I accept, vote to accept. Yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Purdy?
Agreed.
Well, she was sitting on my bed.
Councillor Shelton?
Agreed.
She jumps between my bed and
Councillor John Stockwood?
Agreed.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood?
agreed.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Unless Councillor Bird has joined us?
No, he's not back in yet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Item 4, to verify accounts paid report to the 31st of May 2020, Appendix B. Which you've all had a copy of. Any comments or questions? Are we all happy to accept those?
Agreed, Mr. Chairman.
I'll propose.
Agreed.
I agree.
Shall I run through that?
Okay.
Councillor Lewis?
Yeah, I agree.
Councillor Purdy Haran?
Agreed.
Councillor Shelton?
Agreed.
Councillor John Stockwood?
Agreed.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood?
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 5, to verify the bank reconciliations. A, to the 30th of April 2020, Appendix C, and B, to the 31st of May. 31st of May, that should have read 2020, Appendix D. I move those. Any comments or questions? Do I have a seconder?
Oh, excuse me.
Is that a seconder, Councillor? Mr.
Second it, Councillor Stockwood seconded it.
Okay.
So in favour of accepting the reconciliations,
We take them together.
yeah, to the 30th of May 2020, and this time only to the 31st of May 2020. Councillor Lewis,
Yeah, accept.
Councillor Purdue-Haran,
Accept.
Councillor Shelton,
Accept.
Councillor John Stockwood,
Agree.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6, to consider the membership of the car park subcommittee and review its terms of reference, Appendix E. So we've all had a copy of the proposed terms of reference. Did you want to say anything on this, Councillor John Stockwood?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Happy to speak. So I emailed councillors this afternoon. Councillors made a series of decisions regarding the subcommittee, including the adoption of terms of reference for this year, but without the J, K and L that are in the document that's published with this meeting's minutes paper, the minutes, and the agenda of this meeting. The council's previously resolved that the current membership is myself and Councillor Shelton, plus some others, but it never got around to deciding who the others were. So it's currently the case that the subcommittee consists of myself and Councillor Shelton. We were just wondering if some other people would like to join us to be so that we can have a quorum meeting, which would be super helpful. It does say in the terms of reference that the Policy and Resources Committee can appoint members of the subcommittee. So that's something you can do this evening, so that we can have a quorum meeting. Particularly, the Council's resolution in October 2019 states that the subcommittee can communicate with outside bodies regarding support and funding for the car park project, and a quorum subcommittee meeting can receive an update from the Mayor, which is me, on communication with an outside body regarding support for the project. So we're looking for at least one more person to join the subcommittee, the car parking subcommittee, so we can have a meeting to discuss the way forward.
I'd like to join, please.
Okay, so the decision the council made was that it was the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, 2 Conservative councillors, 2 non-Conservative councillors, and a non-voting representative from the Bingham Sports Club. So, Mr. Chair, I suggest that this committee appoints some additional members for the car park subcommittee, and notes the previous decisions on the terms of reference, if that's.
May I speak, Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I suppose that I'm a non-Conservative councillor. I don't know if that's a pejorative term or not. So I suppose if there have to be 2, I better be it.
I'd like to.
Okay.
Do I see the town clerk's hand?
Yes, sorry. I was just saying, with regard to the terms of reference that were put to the committee this evening, they were the original terms of reference. Typically, every year we review our terms of reference at the annual town council meeting, but of course we haven't had an annual town council meeting this year, so it is up to this committee this evening to also review the terms and conditions as whether they wish to see items J, K and L reinstated or they wish that to continue, and also the membership of the subcommittee can amend as it sees fit. It needn't stick to the original format.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Do we wish to give that authority to the subcommittee?
Well,
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I'd like to propose that under the terms of reference, we go back to including J, K and L. We did have training that that is the correct procedure for subcommittees. And as I was on it before, I would like to go on it again, if possible.
Okay. Well, I propose Councillor Wayne Stapleton and Mrs. Maureen Stockwood to join the Mayor and Deputy Mayor.
Okay, well, we've got our councillor members. We need to contact the sports club about their representative, non-voting representative.
Can I ask this committee to give delegated authority to the subcommittee to liaise with the sports club so that they may choose their representative to join you? Can I have a seconder, please, for my proposal?
I'll second that. That sounds sensible to me.
Okay.
Sorry, can I just check the membership of the subcommittee, please? So is that Councillor Lewis, Councillor Leach, Councillor Stapleton, Councillor Maureen Stockwood, Councillor John Stockwood, Councillor Andrew Shelton, plus a member from the sports club?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's what we agree.
Thank you.
Yeah, and can I just go back to with regard to subcommittee and reinstating J, K and L. With subcommittees, it is recommended that we treat them as committees now, but there is no obligation, there's no legal requirement to do that, but we can treat it as we would ordinarily for a committee and publish agendas and public notice.
Okay.
I'd like to propose that we do constitute it as a committee rather than as a subcommittee. I don't know what it would have been reporting to anyway, and I can't see the point of having multiple subcommittees whose only function is to report to committees which then can report to full council. It seems to be an unnecessary layer of bureaucracy. So I support that.
The advantage with subcommittees are that they can react fairly quickly, quicker than committees, which tend to be scheduled in advance. I realise we can call a committee meeting, an extraordinary meeting under circumstances, but subcommittees can react generally quicker, and indeed can examine in detail items which do take time to consider, and they may require more than one meeting. So I think there is a role for a subcommittee on this particular item, which is a major project when we can get going on it, and is a key priority for this council. And I think, I think it's something that we should keep as a subcommittee to meet, as I say, fairly quickly when we need to, because there will come a time when we will need to react and be fleet of foot, as it were. The other item is we may at some point, we're certainly a long way off from that, but we'll be coming into situations where we will have to hold meetings confidentially when we're looking at contracts and those. Of course, everything then is reported to Policy and Resources and ultimately to full council.
Right.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman? As a member of the public.
Do we agree to suspend standing orders?
No.
I agree. We should allow Jane to speak. Can't see any reason why not.
It's one of
Right,
the reasons.
I'm going to put a proposal that we suspend standing orders on this occasion to allow Mrs. Costello to speak. So I propose that.
I'll second it.
Do we need to have a vote on this, Clark?
I think given Councillor John Stockwood's comment. Yes, I'll just run through that. So, Councillor Lewis, are you in favour of suspending standing orders?
I am.
Councillor Purdue Haran.
Agreed.
Councillor Shelton.
Agreed.
Councillor John Stockwood.
Object.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
Abstain.
We will suspend standing orders at 8 o'clock.
Okay, go ahead, Jane.
Yeah, simple question. I read the terms of reference and everything, and it seems that there's yet another secretive committee of this council, and the public are very anxious about the parking situation in Bingham and have been for some considerable time. And I don't think that it's of benefit to the public to hold yet another group or committee in secret. I think the public need to see that Bingham Town Council is acting openly, fairly and transparency where this car park situation is concerned. Thank you.
I take your comments on board, Jane, but as I said, the subcommittees have their advantages in getting on with business. I'm fascinated with the interest that members of the public have with tiny Bingham Town Council's business when there are meetings going on all the time at county level and borough level, and we don't have queues of people wanting to take part in those committees, usually with more consequences than what we've achieved so far. The car
It's your
park.
culture of secrecy.
Yeah, well, we're all allowed an opinion. So, thank you very much. I'm going to reinstate standing orders and go to the vote if that's okay.
Okay. So, I'm going to say Councillor Bird there. Councillor Lewis, are you in favour of the committee? She said she's got her papers to the bottom of the committee, standing of Councillor yourself, Councillor Leach, Councillor Stapleton, Councillor Maureen Stockwood, Councillor John Stockwood, Councillor Andrew Shelton, with the subcommittee delegating the decision to invite a member from the sports club and to include items or keep items J, K and L of the original terms of reference of the subcommittee.
Yeah, I'm in favour.
Councillor Purdue Haran.
In favour.
Councillor Shelton.
In favour.
Councillor John Stockwood.
Agree.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Costello, you've got your hand still up on the screen. Thank you. Okay. Item 7, to receive an update on the car park development project and agree the next steps. Can I invite Councillor John Stockwood to update
I
us?
will be down when this is the next bit that I'm actually interested in. I will be down to do tea. What have you had?
Okay, well, I'll participate in this meeting then.
Councillor-
As I've just explained, now that we've got a quorum at subcommittee,
Stop.
I can give I'll call a meeting
Whoa.
as the previous chair, and we'll have an update from me there, if that's all right, because now that we've got plenty of people to talk to. Okay, thank you very much.
Leach, can you please turn off your microphone? Can Councillor Leach please turn off your microphone?
It is turned off.
I can still hear you.
Better.
Sorry, Councillor Stockwood. Start again.
As I just explained, So in my introduction to the item number 6, I explained that as soon as we have a quorum subcommittee, we can receive an update because we've got an update from me on communication with an outside body regarding support for the project. The council resolved at a full council meeting in October that the car park subcommittee can communicate with outside bodies regarding support and funding for the car park project. So there's a council decision in public regarding what we're going to do about moving the car parking project forward. We've now got enough people to come to a car park subcommittee, and we can now do that action that the council has resolved that this subcommittee does. So I look forward to the forthcoming subcommittee meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. There's no need for a vote on that. Item. Has anybody got any questions or comments? No. Right. Moving on to item 8. To consider the grant application for Bombers CIC, Appendix F.
May I speak, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, I think everybody's got an update on where we're at with the skate park project. Now, this grant application was approved in the sum of £1,175 by this committee on the 3rd of March, I believe. And then, as has been pointed out in the past, it was overtaken by events, that is to say, lockdown. And then it's been battered backwards and forwards between the this committee and the full council ever since. We are still hoping to put on an indoor event, a skateboarding event this year, and the current proposal is that we should do it actually on the 29th of November, immediately after the Christmas fair. We're still in the process of ascertaining whether Skate Nottingham CIC, who are doing actually organising the event, will be able to do it on that date, and also the availability of the leisure centre for booking. But that is the proposal, and obviously we will need our funds in order to get the arrangements in place, and we have a full council meeting I think on the 21st of this month, and we are hoping that this time we will actually get our money so we can move things forward. More than that I can't really say because I can't vote on this item, but I would like to know whether that's going to happen, and if not, why not?
Can you just remind me, you said we'd already agreed an amount?
We did indeed.
We
Can you
did,
just remember-
Francis.
How much was that? Can you remind me?
£1,175. The original application was for 1,465, and it was decided that that should be reduced. And the final figure, which was approved, subject to full council approval, was £1,175.
So can I ask why it's come back to this committee?
Well, it went to the full committee in April, I believe, on the 9th of April. And you yourself said on that occasion that there'd been a change of circumstances and that the application was therefore deferred. So it was neither approved nor disapproved.
Right.
And then it was sent back to this committee, I think to date in May. And I'm not entirely sure what decision was made then, but now it's before this committee again today, and there's an opportunity to actually get the money paid on the 21st of July when the full council meets. So we need to make, there needs to be some kind of statement as to whether this grant application is actually approved or whether it's refused, because we're unsure what exactly is happening.
Okay.
And I think you, Mr. Chairman, know the answer to that.
Well, Councillor Lewis, I wish you the best of luck, and I hope that you can go ahead and arrange for this event to take place. I suspect you are right to be cautious and to go for the end of November, because to be honest, I'm getting worried about Christmas these days. That would be a disaster. So I'm going to propose that we confirm that £1,175 is granted to the Bingham Bombers. And I think as as we hope things are getting a bit clearer, fingers crossed, let's hope that November is entirely possible for you. So we just need a seconder to confirm that we can release those funds. Do we have a seconder?
Mr. Chairman, if I may speak.
Councillor Mrs. Stockwood.
Thank you. I share your concerns about what is going to happen this year. Only recently they've cancelled that there will be no pantomimes at Christmas. So, you know, and after, and I share your concern again as to whether we will actually be able to have a Christmas fair. I still think it's very, very much up in the air what is happening this year. The spike in Leicester and, you know, news from abroad is that it's going to be with us for a long, long time. And I still think there are many doubts about what will happen in the future. I will second it, but with those, you know, showing those concerns, because it's, if we give the money for, it includes publicity and things, it can only be spent once. And I think that committee that they've got needs to consider very, very carefully about going forward until they definitely can. Thank you.
Francis?
Viv?
Thank you for that. Maureen, thank you as well. And I'd just like you to know from me, it will be very carefully considered. We are working hard. You may also like to know, as Gareth has popped in as well, I have emailed both Barratt Homes and David Wilson Homes to ask if it's possible to find some space on their places for the skate park. I'm just waiting for answers back, but be assured we will make sure that money is spent as it's supposed to be spent. And I'd like to thank you.
Thank you. Okay, can we go to the vote now, please?
Yes, so Councillor Purdue-Horan in favour of giving.
For.
Councillor Shelton,
For.
Councillor John Stockwood,
For.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
Or
Thank you very much, councillors.
Thank you. Item 9, to receive an update on the humanitarian aid budget, Appendix G. Right. I don't seem to have printed that off, actually, so I'm just struggling on that one. Mr. Mayor, are you able to update us on it?
Well, Appendix G lists the payments that have been made. So the Resilience Committee was created so that we could spend the humanitarian aid on helping people. Thankfully, the pandemic didn't turn out to be a pandemic that killed hundreds of thousands of people and filling our cemetery. And I'm glad that the amount that we dedicated to this budget was not being needed to the extent that we thought it might be back in March. But we have made some payments according to the report regarding helping people in this difficult time. And there is further payments to be made regarding mileage and some shopping that has been done. We are paying the Helping Hands volunteer costs that they are incurring. Helping Hands doing a lot of good work in the community, and the council has been is fulfilling its I think its decision to pay the costs that are being incurred by those volunteers. So that's what the update says. I think those latest payments are going through the system. I think that's the gist of the report. I'm not sure there's actually anything to be decided upon. I think it's to be noted that what's been gone so far, and take it into account when we can come to consider the community grant applications in number 10.
Yes, I don't think we need a vote on this item, do we?
I don't know. You have to check with the clerk.
It's just to be noted, Councillor Purdue-Horan, and correct in terms of what Councillor John Stockwood has said in regard to it. It is to steer any decisions with relation to item 10.
Thank you. Okay, and moving on to item 10, to consider community grant applications for humanitarian aid, Appendix H. We've had some emails, and I would suggest that that we forward grant application forms to those sports clubs who have made applications, and I think it would be reasonable for this committee to delegate authority to the Resilience Subcommittee to get on with assisting and considering the applications from those clubs who've laid out their difficulties going forward. Any other comments or questions?
Can we take a vote on? Can we take a vote on that with regard to?
Well, hang on. Before we take a vote, I'll Councillor Lee.
Just a suggestion, and it's only just a suggestion in helping people. What about giving some help to the residents of Western Avenue with all the hassle they've got, and they're having to pay out, God knows, I wouldn't even like to know how much they're having to pay out for repairs to their homes because of the 2 recent floods. Maybe we could do something for them.
Well, thank you. that's not on the agenda for this evening, and we don't really have enough detail, and that's a separate item completely. Perhaps
It
you
was
can
just a
discuss it.
suggestion, Francis, that's all.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe you can discuss.
May I speak, Mr. Chairman?
No,
I think
Councillor Shelton's got his hand up.
Okay.
First.
I'm not sure how I'd put my hand up.
Andrew, your mic is you are muted.
Sorry, I couldn't find item H in the documents that were sent through.
You couldn't find them.
Not that particular one, no. I've got everything else but that one.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
Councillor Stockwood, point of information.
Yep.
That's me.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
so I think I think Appendix H was a collection of emails and correspondence that the council had received. We've received an application, an email from the cricket club talking about how they've experienced some losses. We've had an email from the Binghamtown Sports Club regarding how they've lost income and have got ongoing maintenance problems. We've had an email from the Bingham Community Events organisation, and we've had an email from the Netball Club. And these all relate to the decision of the council made that, which is a resolution of council, that community groups and sports clubs can be helped with regards to the impact of COVID-19 and upon those clubs. So what you're looking at is you seem to be suggesting that we're going to try and work out a way of implementing that through the Resilience Committee, where you ask them to fill in a standard grants form with perhaps their accounts and some perhaps additional information about, make sure they all provide some information about how COVID-19 has affected them, some financial detail around that, and whether they've had other grants to help them, because there's been a number of schemes, and it wouldn't be the case that we would be funding where they've already received funding. So to support the council's decision, you're making some, you're trying to find a way of implementing that with some evidence so you can understand the requests that are being made. Is that the gist of what you're doing, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, that's right. I think if we just pass on the grant application forms to them, it would provide an audit trail for us, of course, and indeed, I say we could action it through the Resilience Committee. If it comes sooner, on July the 28th, we could action it at full council. So whatever is sort of more convenient for us to be able to assess the applications and assist. So without further ado, perhaps we can go to the vote to approve that we either give delegated authority to the Resilience Subcommittee, or indeed it goes to full council if we receive applications back in time.
I'll propose that, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'll second it.
May I speak, Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I think you were suggesting two alternative proposals. One was to refer it or give delegated authority to the Resilience Subcommittee, which has only met once, or to put it to the full council. I think you have to make a decision as to which of those you're proposing, rather than either or.
No, not at all. No, not at all. Full council is the ultimate authority for this council, so it is entirely appropriate if we just if we find that we're not able to have a Resilience Committee before the 28th of July, then it's entirely appropriate if we have paperwork sent back to us that it can come it can come onto the agenda for the full council meeting. So it's not an issue. It's simply to make sure that we are seen to assist rather than allow bureaucracy get in the way.
Now, perish the thought that we should allow bureaucracy to get in the way of our decisions. Francis.
Indeed. So can we
Right.
just have a vote on agreement of my proposal, please?
Councillor Lewis,
Agreed.
Councillor Purdue-Haran,
Agreed.
Councillor Shelton,
Agreed.
Councillor John Stockwood,
Agreed.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
Agreed.
Thank you very much, councillors.
Thank you. Item 11, to receive an update on the Public Works Loan Board community engagement element.
Yeah. No. Just to let you know that we have the survey ready to go. We've got the narrative prepared for the website. So we're aiming to get that live this week with a view to it being available for people to participate in for a month. And then it will be taken to full council, the results of the survey, as part of the consideration for council to proceed or not. Anybody have any questions in relation to that?
As I understand it, it is a 28-day consultation that the PWLB insist on, and that may not make our next scheduled full council.
No, it won't make the meeting on the 28th. No, that won't give us the month.
Okay, so so it's very likely then that to progress that project, we may need to call an extraordinary full council shortly after the 28th of July.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no other comments or questions, I'll move on to item 12. To receive a report from the pension scheme working group, including recommendations, Appendix I. Four of us have met twice to consider Bingham Town Council's continuing membership of the Nottinghamshire Local Government Pension Scheme. We met first in October 2019. We were scheduled to meet again at the end of November, but necessary information wasn't available, so we waited on, and then unfortunately into the new year, and unfortunately then of course events overtook us. But we were considering the what is a triennial review of the government pension scheme, a 3-year review by specialist actuaries who look at whether schemes are sufficiently funded. And despite their despite an optimistic expectation during last year, when it was a very strong year for investments generally, and has been a good 10 years actually. Unfortunately, it's still runs, but it has improved from 2016. The pension fund was 87% fully funded, and as of the 31st of March 2019, improved up to 93% fully funded. So there's a 7% shortfall, which, because there's large numbers involved in this, in pounds, shillings and pence, that works out at £405 million, which could be funded correctly in years to come. However, in the immediate term, the county council and district councils have to find substantial amounts of money to meet the recommendations, and Bingham Town Council, as an admitted body, like many others, also has to find their share of the shortfall estimated, which has been calculated as a further 2.5% on the employer contributions. So our regular contributions that Bingham Town Council puts into the scheme, not employees, will rise from 17.7% of salaries to 20.2%. In addition to that, there's an additional cash contribution, and our share is £18,258, which is split over 3 years up to 2023, when there may be another triennial review. However, they are thinking about moving it to a 4-year period. We've had a robust debate about the cost of the scheme to Bingham residents, and there are various fors and against for whatever choice one makes. It is an extremely good scheme. It is one of the best pension schemes in the world, but it is unfortunately expensive, and the possibility is, in the future, as we continue to live longer, we simply have to pay those who retire from the scheme a lot longer, and that has to be paid for. An alternative option, which we've looked at, is to move away from the defined benefit arrangement and to go into a government-backed scheme of defined contributions, where the contributions, the expenses are lower, the cost is lower, but of course the eventual pot of money is not known in advance, because that will depend on the growth rates of different markets, be that stocks and shares, property, government bonds, and all sorts of bond arrangements. On balance, the committee was split, and we met on Friday. The committee was split, and the recommendations to Policy and Resources Committee are based on my casting vote at that meeting. So the recommendations to this evening to put to full council, if this committee is so minded to accept those recommendations, is A, that Bingham Town Council remains an admitted body member of the Nottinghamshire County Council Local Government Pension Scheme for existing members of the pension scheme as at the 31st of July 2020. So it won't affect, any changes won't affect those of our staff members who are members of the local government scheme. B, as from the 1st of August 2020, new members of staff or existing staff who choose to join a pension arrangement later on, who are not already in the scheme, will be offered a new Bingham Town Council workplace pension scheme with the government-backed Nest pension scheme. C, that members of the new Bingham Town Council Nest pension scheme will contribute at least a minimum of 5% gross of their qualifying earnings, i.e. those earnings between 6,240 and the max £50,000 for 2020-2021. And the 5% gross relates to effectively 4% from the member and 1% from tax relief. Recommendation D, Bingham Town Council will also contribute 5% gross of the employee's qualifying earnings between those two bands, 6,240 and 50,000. So those are the recommendations, and I move those for this committee to consider. Do I have a seconder? And I'm happy to answer any questions or
I'll second that,
comments.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Shelton. Any comments or questions?
I have a question, if I may. It's a practical question with regard to this. Should the committee vote in favour of it?
Yep.
Yep. So any existing members of staff who may not be in the pension scheme, do we need to provide so much written notice that the pension scheme may be changing? And should they wish to join in the intervening time, they should be given a certain amount of notice with regard to that? Is there any legalities around that?
I'm not aware of any requirement to consult or to extend admittance to the scheme.
Do we need to check that?
I'm not aware that we need to check it.
Okay.
Are you aware that we need to check it?
No, I'm just erring on the side of caution that should the committee decide to go with this, that we don't, we check that we have given the necessary notice to any members of staff who may not be members currently, but may be considering or want the option to join before the 1st of August change.
It's not unreasonable to advise members of staff before the 31st of July so that they can have one last chance to join the local government scheme. I'm certainly not against us informing members of staff.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Shall we go to the vote?
Yes. Am I right? Councillor Lewis?
I don't feel that I have sufficient knowledge of the merits and demerits of these two schemes, and I'm not an expert on pensions, so I'm going to abstain.
Councillor Purdue-Horan?
For the recommendations.
Councillor Shelton?
For the recommendations.
Councillor John Stockwood?
For.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood?
For.
Thank you, councillors.
So we move on to item 13, confidential business, where we will be closing this particular channel and moving on to the confidential channel, I suppose. In view of the confidential nature of the business about to be transacted, the press and the public be excluded for the remainder of the meeting. I propose that. Do I have a seconder?
Second it.
Thank you.
Councillor Lewis, are you in favour of moving into confidential?
Yes.
Councillor Purdue-Haran,
Yes.
Councillor Shelton,
Yes.
Councillor John Stockwood,
4.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
Yes.
Thank you.
Francis? Hello?
Hello.
Is it okay? Do you mind if I disappear?
No, absolutely. You go ahead and have a nice evening.
Thank you,
for
Francis.
your attendance. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, and
Bye.
sorry,
Bye.
with that, I close the public session of the Policy and Resources Committee meeting at 20:40. Thank you.
Thank you.